I'm a 40-year-old female. This story happened when I was 31. I used to take my pit bull to the lake every day of the summer to swim his name was Kid. The park at the lake that I would take him to is called Jeans Park, which is in Lane County, Oregon. It's a small wooded park that isn't very popular and is not far from a dead end. There's a trail through the woods that takes you to a few small little beaches that are just big enough for one family per beach. Well, this one particular day of my story, Kiddo and I hiked through the woods to the beach farthest from the parking spaces. West swum for a while, and then I saw a boat in the distance on the lake. It was coming closer and closer, like this person was targeting me, my private beach, and was going to park his boat here. I could see one man was on the boat, so I started gathering up all my stuff, the floaty, the tote bag, the dog cable, my purse, and then started up the bank. There was a grassy bank that was probably a few feet higher up from the sandy beach. When we got up to the grassy bank, the boat had reached the shore, and this creepy mango toffifith that was wandering around the beach, completely nuded. Nobody else was around as I hurried away with Kiddo. This creepy guy was saying, "You don't have to be scared, you don't have to run away." I just kept walking towards the woods. Then it stopped and was like crap. I just realized I forgot my sunglasses, which were on the beach. I have extremely sensitive eyes and a major dry eye problem, and it was especially bad at that time. I felt like I wouldn't be able to see without my glasses. So I walked back over to the beach with Kiddo. I had a wide-brimmed hat which I used to block my view of this naked man who was still wandering the beach. I asked the man to just hand me sunglasses. He got the glasses, and as he handed them to me, I kept blocking my view of his body with the wide-brimmed hat. My dog's nose was right at our hands when they were close together. Luckily, the man did not grab me. It then walked back through the woods to my car. I think back about it and how it was stupid of me to go back and ask him to hand me my glasses. I should have just gone to my car and waited there for him to leave. He clearly had come over to me beach to target me later that day. It told my mom what had happened. She ended up calling it, think, the ranger station and talked to a lady who worked there. The lady agreed that the creep was definitely targeted me. It seems like there was something said that there had been some similar instances around that same time at that lake. The lady gave the ranger my phone number and headed call me later, but had to leave a message. I called him back and left a message, but I never did hear back from him again. Sometimes I think I should have pepper sprayed the guy who came to my beach, but Kiddo was right there and would have gotten at him. I'm surprised that creepy men have targeted me multiple times. Seventh, though I had my pit bull with me by my side. I know Kiddo looked harmless, but he did have good-sized jaws. And time a man tried to lure me from the bike path by telling me to come look at this painting. She said this in a coy fake French accent. Kiddo interpreted him, and the guy wasn't comfortable with dogs, so headed a little spank on Kiddo's rears. So I was like, that's it, we're leaving. I just spiked away with him after that. I feel very lucky to have Kiddo because I feel like I could have had much worse misfortune with creepy men without Kiddo by my side. He was truly my best friend in the whole world. This happened a few years ago. I lived by a few lakes, a little bit more out in the country. One day, I went to one of those lakes to go fishing. I don't go fishing very much, but back then I liked to go whenever I could. Soon this day, when I went to the lake, I knew of every quiet spot. I wanted to fish on the lake, had a large woods around it and several walking trails. I saw hole. The lake was usually very quiet. I had been on pretty much all of the trails before and rarely ever saw anybody else walking or anything. The quiet fishing spot that I licked was a ways off of a trail and was very secluded. I'd been to that spot maybe 2 or 3 times. And then I went by the lake, parked in the small parking lot where other cars were, which is typical. Then I entered a trail leading into the woods. I walked on the trail for probably 50 minutes before going off of it for another 5 or so. Then I was at my spot and I started fishing. That day though, maybe 30 minutes after I began fishing, I heard a noise behind me coming from inside the woods. So occasionally I would hear birds or squirrels and they would run through the woods or go by me, but this noise was really loud to have been made by either a human or a very large animal. I looked back but didn't see anything. The noise was coming from a ways back, and the woods was very dense. Overall, the noise lasted for maybe 10 seconds, then it faded away. It focused my attention back onto fishing, but not that long after I heard the sounds again once more. I looked and saw nothing. This was beginning to confuse me. I got up and looked all around through what I could see in the woods. The noise kind of moved away. This time I even walked a few steps into the woods, but still saw nothing. After that I went back to my fishing. Probably an hour went by just then I heard the noises yet again. This time they were louder and closer than before. I got up and looked behind me, and I just barely saw some tree branches and leaves moving, but I couldn't see what had caused it. It was just out of my view. Whatever it was moved out of sight completely and then farther away. I was very confused and didn't know what was going on. I decided at that point to just leave. It was starting to make me paranoid, and the fishing wasn't going that great that day anyways. I packed all my stuff and then started to go back into the woods to make it to the trail. As I went through the dense forest, I did not hear any noises other than myself. Soon I found my way back onto the path. I walked quickly down it, but it would still take me over 10 minutes to get to the parking lot, probably within a minute of walking. I heard noises coming from the woods and behind, but they were maybe 20 feet, and then once again out of my view it was also trailing me. I stopped, and then the noises stopped. I kept walking, and at first didn't notice them. I just barely heard what sounded like somebody walking through the woods. It was coming from a ways back and just off the trail. I didn't even want to stop and investigate or anything. I just wanted to get out of the at that point. I continued to walk at a fast pace. Pretty soon I had made it fairly close to my car. I still heard somebody walking in the woods a ways back, though at first when I was fishing, I was afraid that it might be a bear or something, but now I was pretty confident that it was a person. Why they would follow me through the woods, though. I didn't know when I was within maybe a minute of my cart. The noises behind me intensified. They sounded as thought they were getting closer. As well, I only went faster when I heard this. At last, I made it to the parking lot. I put my things in the back of my car and then got inside. Luckily, nobody came out of the woods. My car was still the only one in the parking lot, though, so if somebody else was here, they would have either walked or parked on the complete opposite side of the lake. That would have taken a lot longer to get to after getting inside of my car. I felt much better as started to back away and then saw what appeared to be a man standing at the front of the trail. He was dirty with what looked like dirt smeared on his face and noticeable stains on his clothes. He stood there watching me. I drove off. After that, I didn't go fishing at that lake again. This is something that happened several years back. Now I was invited to one of my cousin's weddings, and basically everybody else in the family was as well. The wedding venue was just a few minutes away from my aunt and uncle's houses, so a bunch of us were staying there. My aunt and uncle have a really nice house that's on a lake and has a large property. The house has a basement, main level, and upstairs. My sister was going to be part of the wedding because her and my cousin are really close friends and almost like sisters, so my parents, sister, and as well as other people involved in the wedding were all staying at my uncle's house for a few days. She had 5 upstairs bedrooms and a full finished basement, but with all the people there, I was the odd man out and had to sleep on the living room couch. I didn't really mind, and I would be the only person sleeping on the main level, so all got out there a couple of days early. And by the lake on the first day, there was a dock there with a little open space to hang out near the water. Then there was a little bit of trees and woods, and then the main backyard, which was pretty large. I'm not much of a water person, but it was fun. Well, had a good time hanging out there. And then when it became night time, Will went inside. Pretty soon everybody went off to bed, including myself. All of the lights were turned off, and I laid down on the couch to get some rest. Normally, I sleep pretty easy, but it was really hot in there. I'm not sure if the heat was on for some reason or what, but I couldn't sleep being so warm. I didn't want to mess around with the air conditioner because they had some fancy one and I had no clue how to use it. I also didn't know if they would want me to just turn it on. It was cooler outside, and after failing to fall asleep for probably more than 30 minutes, I got up. There was a door in the backside of the living room that led to outside in the backyard. It was nearly all glass, and you could see right outside through. It was honestly strange to have a door. It didn't lead to the patio, but just right into the grass. I walked over to it and opened it up. It was much cooler outside, and it felt great. In fact, it felt so good that I decided to go outside and walk around. I just wanted to cool off, really. I took a few steps outside and looked around. The yard was very big, and the house was a good distance from the road as well. It was very quiet and peaceful outside until I heard a noise. It was coming from over North Lake. I thought this was kind of strange, and I looked over but saw nothing. At first, I walked a little bit closer. Then Izoaman emerged from behind a couple of trees. Shirley wasn't that far away from me, maybe like 50 feet, but the man didn't see me at all. He was looking in a complete other direction, and I quickly moved away and went back over to the house. I saw the guy walk out of my sight around to the other side of the house, opposite from where I was going. Whoever this guy was, he wasn't supposed to be here. I had a bad feeling about him. And I went back inside of the house and then closed and locked the door behind me. But then I decided to try to go back to sleep. Hopefully whoever that guy was would just leave. I was there laying on the couch again, and now finally not too warm to go to sleep. I laid there facing the door and window that I had gone out before. Suddenly through the other window, I saw the man pass by. He was walking closer. I didn't know what to do, so I just closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. A few seconds later, I opened my eyes just a little bit. I saw the man now standing right outside of the door, and looking in. My heart was pounding like crazy, but I didn't want to move at all. I really had no idea who this guy was or what he was doing here. The man then tried opening the door, which was locked. After a few more seconds, she left and walked away. I hoped that he was leaving for good. I got up from the couch and looked out of the window, but didn't see him. Then I went into the dining room, which was the next room over and low. Okied out of a window there, I still didn't see the guy next. I went around to the front of the house where the main entrance door was. I hit the switch to turn the outside light so that I could see as soon as I did, as saw the guy, he turned and started running away. I watched him got out of sight behind a bunch of trees after that. It turned the light back off and went back to the couch. I was finally able to fall asleep a short time later the next morning. I kinda forgot about it. It was a busy weekend there, and I never ended up telling anyone about it. I still don't know who the guy was. I'm hoping that never returned.